Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another show. We are back. My name is Matt High, your host for this evening, and we have Chris Felice. We are recording this during the Monday Night Football game. Jets versus Bills, but we are going to go with waivers. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of quarterbacks. It's not really a good waiver week, it seems. It just seems a little bit bizarre. But we'll see.
It's catch-uppy. Yeah,
there's only two teams on bye. We got the Bears and the Cowboys. That is it. But we will see. So, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Had some pretty clutch plays this week in a couple of leagues, which we'll go over when it happens. Looking good. I would say, like, out of the 10 leagues, I got, I think like 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 wins. So that's fine. That's like standard. I drafted pretty, like, I diversified my draft, so it's kind of expected. I'm not supposed to win all weeks anyway. I did win in Vampire again, so stay tuned on Wednesday to figure out who I take from the other team. But yeah. No, how about you? How are you doing?
My week is coming down to Monday Night Football, so there's a lot riding. I have basically Ty Johnson in 3 leagues going tonight because James Cook is out. To stay alive in our Guillotine League, I need Khalil Shakir to do things, and so as usual, Monday night, hopefully it works out for me, but we will see.
Monday night.
Oh, it's terrible. And for anyone listening, if you've listened for a little bit, there's been a time where I'm playing Richie this week in our redraft league. There was a time in the past where I only needed about 3.5 points from a guy going in Monday night to win. Seemed like a shoo-in. Perfect. Well, he scored like 2.5 and then got injured, and I lost.
What's his name?
Kiki Kuti, who is no longer in the NFL, and I'd like to think I'm part of that, but we will see. It was not a fun time. So that is what I'm waiting for tonight. Ty Johnson to not do anything and me to lose. I just need 5 points. That's it. Just 5. 5, buddy. Let's go. A couple catches, a couple yards, and then you can just
touchdown.
Sit. Oh, if he scores a touchdown, I'm good. But we will find out. So if I am sad on Wednesday's show, Thursday's show when it drops, you know why. But without further ado, let us go right into waivers. Alrighty, we have only a few quarterbacks this week. It's not the best week for quarterbacks, in my opinion, on the waivers. First guy here, we got a 1A and 1B situation here. Andy Dalton is 10% rostered. His matchup this week is the Washington Commanders, who rank bottom 6 in points per game allowed to the quarterback position. Didn't do a ton last week, had 2 interceptions, but still 221 yards and 2 scores. So I think this is going to be a game where he's going to be allowed to kind of show off his arm, and I think it should be good for the passing game. Next guy here is Justin Herbert, who is 41% rostered, so he's somewhat rostered. Going against the Arizona Cardinals this week. Last week, his stats were 21 for 237, and 1 touchdown on 34 attempts. So the Cardinals are also a really, really good matchup for quarterbacks, as we have seen in the past few weeks. So if you had to choose one of those guys, spot start, who are you trying to pick up? Are you going for Herbert if he's there over Andy Dalton, or are you just skipping right to Andy Dalton?
You're saying spot start for just this week, or?
If you need a quarterback this week, you had Derek Carr and he went out, and you were scrambling last week for someone. You need a win now. Who are you going for?
I think if I'm taking this bet, I think I'm going to take Andy Dalton for this week specifically, and I'm looking Justin Herbert long term. I don't think either are a bad choice. I think both are just fine. Both those defenses aren't the greatest. Washington's obviously worse. While I believe, looking at the stats here, yeah, he did good against the Falcons defense, but again against Chicago, that wasn't so much the case. I think the magic will eventually start wearing off, especially considering who he is going up against into the future. New Orleans Denver after Washington, and then New Orleans, and then the Giants. Surprisingly, you can fact check me on this. I don't think the Giants' defense are actually statistically that bad. Can you live fact check me on this?
Yeah, let me see. They rank. They're about middle of the pack.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, they allow 17.3 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. So,
Yeah,
they're actually pretty good. Not the worst, but not the best.
yeah. My choice is Andy Dalton this week, Justin Herbert for the future.
Gotcha. Are you what kind of fab if you need a guy 5 to 7% for both of those guys?
I'm gonna be honest. In many leagues, usually only like a couple teams have quarterback issues, so I'm not putting too much fab. I don't think if you have a quarterback issue, you are not gonna have a hard time getting one of these guys if they're available. Obviously, Herbert's a little more rostered up, but I don't think you'll have a problem getting Andy Dalton.
Gotcha. All right, next guy here, we got Matthew Stafford, who is 37% rostered, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Last time we saw him, he had a bye last week, so 29 completions for 260 yards and a single touchdown. One interception on 45 pass attempts in week 5 against the Packers. Looks like probably no Cooper Kupp, definitely no Puka Nacua, is not ready yet. But, Kyron Williams is utilized heavily in the passing game. We've seen some of these other pass catchers take a small step forward. So for Matthew Stafford, are you excited? I mean, the matchup is there. The Raiders are pretty bad. They're bottom 8 in fantasy points allowed per game, so the 8th most allowed. So are you willing to take a shot? I mean, you could probably go do $1 at most. I would put a $0 bid on him, just because I think the other guys are good. But as a 1 week starter, I think it might be a decent week. We were talking pre-show, they're going to be able to run the ball through the air because Max Crosby is going to come for Matt Stafford pretty quickly, and the easiest way out of that is a quick dump off to your running backs.
Yeah, Stafford is a really weird prospect. He just hasn't done too well, I should say. Great first week when everything was there, and then since then it hasn't. Last week 5 against Green Bay, serviceable week, 16 points against San Francisco, 15.5. I think he's done better against better teams, which is a really really weird thing to think about.
Well, he's had to throw the ball more in those.
True.
That's part of it. If you can't run the ball effectively, I mean, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but I mean, Kyron Williams has been really good.
If I am a fantasy manager, I don't think I'm looking towards Matthew Stafford as someone I want to just pick up and start this week. I'd rather have one of the other two. There's probably some other options I'd also rather take. If I am someone who likes to stash quarterbacks, I'll stash Matthew Stafford for the inevitable Cooper Kupp and hopefully Puka Nacua return. But that's about it.
Alrighty, let's jump right into our running backs. This is where we're going to have a little discussion. First things first, though, Tank Bigsby, if he is not rostered, you should add him immediately. I would probably put him at my number 1 waiver priority. I'd burn that priority if I saw him. He's rostered in 63% of leagues, going up against the Patriots this week. Last week wasn't that good, 7 for 21 on the ground, but Travis Etienne is now week to week with a hamstring injury. Now, that's 2 weeks that ETN has not done well. Last week was because of injury. They abandoned the run real quick because they were getting destroyed this past week. So I'm not looking at that stat line thinking anything of it because they needed to pass the ball, and that's not where Tank Bigsby is going to be on the field. He hasn't been that. But he also leads the NFL in yards per carry. He has 7.2 yards per carry. That stat was crazy. I did not expect that from Tank Bigsby. But if he's there, is he your number one waiver priority, or is it going to be the next guy we're talking about?
No, I think with the Travis Etienne injury and the clear path to the number one, this is probably a clear set number one waiver priority. I think you can make a case for the next guy, which I will, but I can understand why people would rather have Tank Bigsby.
Okay. Is he an empty the clip? If he's on waivers, are you spending it all on Tank Bigsby?
I'm going to be honest. If he's still in waivers, it's probably going to be around $25 for me, I think.
Okay. So not quite. You might not get him for that because if someone
Probably
is in
not.
the league, but yeah. Okay. Next guy here, we're gonna go with Sean Tucker, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1% rostered. Goes up against the Ravens defense, which is a terrible, terrible matchup. Let's just kind of get that out of the way. You cannot run effectively on the Ravens. We've seen that week in, week out. It's been pretty bad. But last week, he exploded. 14 attempts, 136 yards, and a score on the ground. Caught all 3 of his targets for 56 yards and a touchdown through the air. So, with Rachaad White seeming to fall out of favor, and then, Bucky Irving got some more work. I think he's still, if Rachaad White is healthy, I think Sean Tucker is the third running back. Do you agree with that, or how would you order these guys moving forward?
This is really tough. So I have a very I got a lot of stuff here actually. I have a lot of stuff here. So for starters, there was no video made or anything else like that. It was a very split second decision. I saw Rachaad White went out, and like Sunday morning, I actually in 4 leagues that I needed a running back for whatever reason. Either I had Rachaad White or I felt not comfortable with who I had. I had so many running back injuries in one league that I had to start Trey Sermon and Justice Hill. That's not a joke. That actually happened. So I replaced Justice Hill with Sean Tucker. All of those leagues I ended up winning. It was fantastic. Solely off of the back of Sean Tucker. This is a really interesting scenario. Here's how I'm going to rate the running backs. I'm going to go Rachaad White at 1. And this is like a 60%, I think.
So you're talking like 1A, 1B kind of thing?
I'm not yet.
Okay.
So I have a comment here from Todd Bowles. He's talking about Sean Tucker's performance. It's definitely worthy of him making it a 3-headed monster, which is a really, really interesting comment to make. I have a feeling it's going to be a competition between Bucky and Sean to see who will usurp Rachaad White. Rachaad White has a really interesting role in the offense at the moment, being a pass-catching running back. Do not count him out yet. While he is not that efficient on the ground, he will still get you the points, and you should probably still start him in there at your RB2 or flex spots if you have them. Probably not next week, but anytime after, you're probably going to be fine. Sean Tucker, however, is a very, very polarizing prospect. I have some stats here, given that Rachaad White is out. Bucky Irving had a fantastic week, 17.5 fantasy points. He was in for 64% of the snaps, 14 attempts for 81 yards. He had 5.7 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. He also had 2 targets for 2 catches and 24 yards in the air. That's pretty good. And now present to you Sean Tucker. 38% snap share. 14 attempts, the same. 136 yards, 9.71 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. 3 for 3 in the air for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. Given less time, the same attention He did infinitely more. You could argue that that was maybe because of the, maybe lack of preparation on the running side because Rashawn White was down and there was just sort of committee role and this offense was kind of moving on the ground. You could make that argument. Uh, this is one of those positions where, like, for instance, while this isn't the exact same scenario, so to speak, we were already calling into question Rashad White's status as the one versus Bucky Irving. Similarly to last year, while there wasn't necessarily an already top dog in that team, the Chiefs were looking for a top dog receiver last year, and Rashee Rice ended up being the guy. If this ends up being a competition, as of right now, next week will be like probably the big determination of, okay, this is who it's probably going to be. I would stash this person. If you have Bucky Irving, you are spending a lot of money on this person just to guarantee that you have the number one. This is a terrifying prospect for any Rashad White or Bucky Irving owners, and an amazing prospect for anybody else. This is the type of player that wins leagues for no reason at all, just for existing. A sophomore year player who had a quiet first year behind Rashad White gets his opportunity and explodes. This is literally how great players are made. Be very, very cautious if you own Bucky Irving, Rashad White. Pick this guy up. As someone who owns those players, and if I didn't already have him on my team, I'm dropping like $30 to $35 on him, I think. I need the insurance. This is a terrifying prospect. It is a fear factor that I am not willing to compensate with.
See, for me, I'm a little more cautious, and I'm not willing to spend that much money for the potential third running back on this team. It's a good offense, but I think Bucky's going to take over the one slot for the running backs. Rashad White has done enough that I think he's going to be in the role as a passing down running back. I just don't see Sean Tucker taking over for him. I don't see him cracking into the top two guys unless there's an injury. And I'm not willing to spend that much money to get a potential insurance back unless he has, potential, which maybe he does, but I think that it's going to be hard. And this week, even if you pick him up, you're not playing him, are you? Going against the Ravens?
No, definitely not playing him.
12.7 fantasy points per game to the running backs. That's all running backs, not just one. That's all of them. You want to split 12.7 points, go for it. But I'm not playing them. That's going to be, you got to pass on the Ravens to make it work. You're not going to run on them. So I think he could be similar to how we kind of talked about Isaiah Likely in the beginning of the year with the Mark Andrews stuff going on, how he was a potential trap. I think that could be it. People look at this and see, shiny new toy in the offense. Oh, look, he's got a bunch of points. And, don't chase that every time. You got to chase it sometimes, but I don't know if this is the time to do it. So
allow me to make one more comment, if that's possible.
Go for it.
Okay. It could definitely be a trap. 100%. You are not spending the money fully on this is a horrible way of thinking about it. I think to an extent, but this is kind of how I play Fab Leagues, and it's worked out a decent amount of time for me. I'm not spending the money necessarily on the player. Unfortunately, I'm spending it also on the security, which, as you said, you don't want to necessarily do. I understand why you wouldn't want to do that. 100%. I get it. But looking also as well as this, with this foot injury that Rashad White has, all trends are probably gearing towards him coming back next week in the foreseeable future, I think. However, I looking into it a bit. This is the last point I'll make on this. There isn't a lot of information coming out on it, and that scares me. Usually when things are cut and dry, there's a lot of stuff coming out for it. I'm not saying this is the exact same thing, but the Michael Thomas, toe injury bonanza stuff that occurred is very similar to this, where you really had no idea when he was coming back. So that's another reason why. But I'm going to stop talking about it.
All right, let's move on. So obviously we differ on the Tampa Bay backfield, but you got to make a decision. So let us know in the comments what how much he went for when waivers run. Next guy here I want to bring up is Tyler Algier, 30% rostered, going against the Seattle Seahawks last week, going against the Panthers. So, take that information how you will. 18 attempts, 105 rushing yards, and a touchdown on the ground, and a 2-point conversion. This is just a guy you want to get in case Bijan happens to go down. If he does, he's a workhorse running back in the NFL. He's good enough to do it. I know for those Bijan managers, I am one of them. It's not been fun watching him on the field in situations where you're thinking, why is Bijan not out there? He could do that better. And here's Tyler Algier running through the line and doing what he does. But at this point, he is not only a handcuff running back, I think you can slot him in as a flex on a weekly basis. It might not be the best thing to do. He might not be, your points aren't going to be super flashy all the time. But in a pinch, bye weeks, I think he's ingrained in the offense enough that I think he can make it work.
Yeah. So. I'll just say really fast. I totally get that. If you have Bijan Robinson, you want this guy. You know what he reminds me of? Tyler Algier, especially last year when he was being utilized a lot more under Arthur Smith. This is kind of like what A.J. Dillon was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like the second man next to the starting big guy that can do it all as well. That's kind of what I'm getting the vibes for here. If you have Bijan, you're definitely picking him up. If I have Bijan, I'm throwing $10, maybe 5 to 10, I guess is kind of what I'm thinking here. Unless if you feel confident in the rest of your running back room, but if you don't, and you're like a lot of us who have injuries in the RB room, you're picking up Tyler this year.
Yes, you are. Last guy here, mostly rostered, 51%. That is, according to Yahoo, Alexander Mattison. Going against the Rams this week. Last week, it wasn't super pretty, but he was involved enough, and he got the touchdown. 14 attempts, 31 total rushing yards, and a score on the ground. Caught all 5 of his targets for 32 yards through the air. Zimmer White still going through this issue. I believe it's a groin injury. I don't know when he's going to suit back up, and if he does, I don't know if we should care. It seems like Alexander Mattison is taking over this backfield and probably has done so already. So even if he does come back, I think he's going to be relegated to more of a backup running back role. So Alexander Mattison, if you're desperate, are you going up to 10 or are you going lower?
If I'm desperate, I'm going to 10, but under any other circumstance, I'm not picking up Alexander Mattison. I'm not. I don't like him. He's definitely a trap. Avoid him under all circumstances. It's far too wishy-washy for me. Yeah, if I am once again at that week where I have Trey Sermon and Justice Hill starting, yeah, I'll take Madison in. But besides that specific scenario, I'm avoiding that.
All right, on to the wide receivers for the week. We got 2 Packers wide receivers. Christian Watson, 41% rostered, and Romeo Doubs, who's 35. Both get, obviously, the Houston Texans defense, who's actually pretty good. Watson went 3 for 68 and a score on 4 targets, and Doubs went 3 for 49 and 2 on 4 targets. So Doubs kind of seemed like the squeaky wheel player last week after missing the previous week due to not showing up to practice because he was disgruntled and annoyed about his role in the offense. Sadly, the Candleman burned too bright. The wick got blown out, so he's going to be on the shelf for a bit. Currently week to week. I don't think we see him next week, and at this point, he burned me enough. I think I'm done. I don't want him. Sorry, Rich. You're wide receiver 1.
that was a short-lived era.
It was. I made him the start of the week.
What, 2 weeks? I think
is
all he lasted. I think, and I was like, oh my god, wow.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Didn't work.
Yeah, I'll be really fast, really quick. $30 on Christian Watson, fading Romeo Dobbs. Actually, I'd even go as far as like 35 or 36 on Christian Watson. A lot of people, I know a lot of people that dropped him, and I understand the concerns. That offense does love to spread the ball around, but I also think that's fantastic. They love to spread the ball around. He's probably going to be a good guaranteed like good amount of points each week as long as they get everything all situated and coming together, which it looks like it is. Jordan Love healthy, Christian Watson's coming back. It's just a high-powered offense here. I mean, even Jaden Reed did good. That's incredible that 3 different receivers on that team posted fantastic numbers. You don't see that anywhere else. The only reason why I'm fading Dobbs is because I truthfully believe he's the third one out, and I think he has the highest percentage of missing out on that stuff. He's a candidate that I would like to blow a lot of my fab on to try and get him on my team. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of they're both wide receiver 3 flex plays in most leagues. I don't feel comfortable. I mean, any one of these guys, any one of the Packers has a chance to come down with a score because Jordan Love is pretty much that dude. So I think they're going to be heavily utilized. Next guy here is Juju Smith-Schuster. 33% rostered going against the Niners this week. Last time we saw him in Week 5, due to the Week 6 bye, he went 7 for 130 yards. Caught all 7 targets. I don't know how I feel about Juju. I feel like he does this every now and then where he pops up. It's like, oh, yeah, he's back. And then he disappears for like 6 weeks at a time. I'm personally not willing to take the shot unless you're absolutely destroyed at wide receiver and you have no other option. I think I'm not even putting $1 on him. I'd put $0 bids on him if he's out there. It's really hard. We played that game with Patrick Mahomes, how he's done in the past, and it hasn't been good. So I don't believe that's automatically going to go to Juju just because he's the guy to catch the ball there. I think Xavier Worthy, as the season goes on, will get a little bit more involved in this offense. Travis Kelce is now Mr. Necessary, and he's going to do Travis Kelce things. So what are your thoughts on Juju? Is this a fool me once, fool me twice situation?
It's a trap. It's a trap. I'm not buying it. He might have 1 or 2 more good weeks. That's it. Not worth it. I'm not even gonna I will look for somebody else to put on my roster. I'm just avoiding him. I don't want to deal with a goose egg randomly for no reason or 2 points. So no, absolutely fading him.
Gotcha. All right, Quentin Johnston is our next wide receiver. Last week was a little bit rough. He did go out with injury, but 22% rostered, going against the Arizona Cardinals. And last week he went 3 for 21 on 4 targets. But last week was a little bit rough. I've been pleasantly surprised with what I've seen from him so far this season. It hasn't been amazing. It hasn't been, what we all thought being a first-round draft pick in the NFL. But this year has been a little bit more optimistic. I don't see him as, Drops McGee anymore. It's kind of he's been able to secure some touchdowns and some really high-profile throws. So I think he's going to be utilized heavily this week because the Cardinals, you can throw on them. You can pretty much do whatever you want on the Cardinals. But I think that with that and the matchup and his role in this offense, I think I might be willing to take a shot. I'm not going to put the touchdown on him, but I think he has the ability and the opportunity to be that person in this offense with Justin Herbert throwing the ball. So what are your thoughts on QJ?
No,
we can move on then. Okay.
Yeah, I just
all right.
It's not as if I don't hate QJ. If you need the flex play, do it. I 100%, especially next week into the Cardinals. That's fine. I just think you have to worry. So he got before he went out, he got like 4 targets, 41% snap share.
He came back though. He
Did
went
he
out
come
early.
back?
He went out
You know how
early in
long
the
he was out
game.
for?
He was out for a little bit. There was one time where Jim Harbaugh, Lad McConkey, and QJ were out.
I saw that. I saw
so,
Jim Harbaugh left.
Yeah. I don't know what that
Yeah,
was about, but hopefully he's all right.
I think the Lad McConkey factor and Josh Palmer being there, there's a lot of growing pains right now with this offense, and I think you just kind of take that into consideration. I think this is a fine flex play. That's it. That's literally it. I'm not trusting it any further than that.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to move on to tight ends, as always, our favorite position, but this week isn't really good for tight ends. A lot of them are mostly rostered, so the guys here we're going to highlight is Zach Ertz, 25% rostered. The matchup is perfect. Carolina Panthers, you can throw on them, and I think he's going to be heavily utilized in this on the team this week through the air. Jaden Daniels should be able to do whatever he wants against this team. He went 4 for 68 last week on 5 total targets. Next guy here is Hunter Henry, 26% roster. Jacksonville Jaguars is the opponent. This is the London game, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He went 3 for 41 and 1 score last week. Both of these matchups rank top 4 against the tight ends. So they allow the third and fourth most points to opposing tight ends. This is, again, you're just shooting for targets, and both these guys are involved, and they have upside to catch a touchdown. Any preference over either of these two?
Ertz, here's better team. That's it.
I was kind of encouraged with what I saw from Drake May, though. I think
I definitely was.
I mean, he had some bad throws, but this is also his first real game, so I think that was part of it. But yeah, I think that was good.
I'll take the stability over Henry, but yeah, I think fine. I think both are fine. I think there's a wrong. The wrong choice is having a league that allows tight ends. That's the wrong choice, actually. But moving on.
All right, now we're gonna go with our defensive streamers of the week. We have the New Orleans Saints, 34% rostered, going against the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix doesn't look very good right now. He's in a slump. He's throwing the ball all over the place and not making plays. So that is probably where I'm going to lean. That's the number one pickup for the defenses. The Bengals going against the Browns. Sorry, Warren, but the Browns cannot block. And Deshaun Watson
do anything?
They get sacked. They allow sacks. They do that better than anyone in the league right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm looking at this team. If they don't make a switch to Jameis Winston, which I know that's terrible for the franchise, terrible, because you just paid this dude $230 million to basically suck.
Yeah.
But
it is funny, though.
Let's throw in Jameis. I want to see him throwing the ball to Amari Cooper. Think of how much fun we will have. You know, sometimes there's things we do, and you look, and you're like, all right, that doesn't make sense for the NFL, so I get it. But it would be really cool for fantasy. Just once, let's do this. Let's do what's good for fantasy. Okay? Let's have some fun here.
I'm sure the GMs will listen to you. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you know I'm high up on the pecking order. NFL GMs call me all the time, be like, "Hey Matt, what do we do?" And looking at the score of the Buffalo Bills New York Jets game right now, I'm surprised they haven't called me to ask what to do, because I'd be telling them to run with Ty Johnson. Sorry.
What's the score right now?
It is 10-7, and Ty Johnson. I need 5 points. He has 2.5.
Who has
So
10
let's
right
get going. The Jets have 10.
Whoa, that's pretty surprising.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson scored the TD. All right, but what do you think about the top two? You have any preference with those guys? I'm assuming the Saints The Saints are your top guy?
Yeah, Saints are definitely my top priority there. But there's nothing wrong with the Bengals as well. I mean, the Browns just suck. So I'm okay with either.
Again, sorry, Warren, but they do. We're Giants fans. We know we suck too, so it's okay.
Yeah,
we're all in this together.
We say it with love. We say it with love, buddy.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, love. I forget where the camera is. That was a really poor attempt to do heart, but
That was really bad.
Yeah, I know.
And just like that, Ty Johnson is out of the game. You're done.
Probably. That's how it works. So there's two more defenses. I just want to mention they're more sneaky plays, DFS plays to me. Looking here, we got the Indianapolis Colts, who are not a good defense. They're not good. Okay, but Tyler Huntley is also not the answer on the Miami Dolphins.
They may not be good, but that offense is also not very good.
What's the saying? Immovable object versus breakable fence or whatever. It's going to be bad. This is also a game where Anthony Richardson is supposed to be starting, barring a setback.
Oh, no.
So it could be a good play to play the Miami Dolphins defense as well. He seems to have a couple picks. So, and the last one here, I want to go with the New England Patriots. Something's broken in Jacksonville. And the Patriots, although they got beat last week, they're not a terrible defense. They're kind of more average now. They used to be really good, and they lost a couple players. But Trevor Lawrence does not look good. And I don't know if this going against this defense across the pond is going to be what fixes them. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the last week we see Doug Peterson as a head coach.
I've been waiting for the firing for a bit. He had a comment where he said something along the lines of like there needs to be a better culture in within the team, and I'm like, my guy, that's your job.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure that's your job. I get there's like, okay, you can make the argument of like problem players, but you haven't heard anything about that within the team. It just seems that they are so down in the dumps. Like you are literally outing yourself. Like saying that, I don't get it. Things are going very, very poorly in Jacksonville. Speaking of Jacksonville, you should trade away Evan Engram. Sell him high because he ain't going to do that again. And if he does, you have another opportunity, but don't play with fire twice because it's going to bite you. I would trade him away immediately. But those are the top waiver pickups for Week 7. If you have any start-sit questions, please send them our way. You can follow along with the show on our X account at HeroesFF. You can take a look on YouTube at youtube.com/@theheroesff. And we are on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. We are everywhere you find your podcast. So do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we will read a question that you submit on the show. We're going to be back with more starts and sits and go for all the fun stuff that happens this week. I'm excited, but also terrified. This is getting close to crunch time where you got to start making moves. We're going to start looking at some trade away targets, maybe some trade for targets as well, to help you guys out and win all of your leagues. That's what we're here for. We want to help you. So without further ado, if you have nothing else to add, sir, I think we're ready to roll. Have a great night, gents.
All right, so long. Good luck.
I say gent as if like there's anybody else here. It's only you.
Yeah.
Have a great night, Matt.
You too. You too.
And you, the viewers at home, have a fantastic night.
Go Ty Johnson. Woo. So long. Good luck. Have fun.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.